Andrea Smith from the New York State Coalition for Children's Behavioral Health. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Happy to join New York Now and keep up to date with what's going on in children's mental health.
Andrea, the State Education Department has formed a task force to handle reopening schools, and you're on that task force. The academic side of reopening schools, of course, is very important, but so is the behavioral and mental health of children. How do you think the decisions that will be made and the steps that will be taken for reopening schools, how do you think that will affect the behavioral and mental health of children?
Well, we know that children are feeling isolated. There was a recent article where an 18-year-old in a single interview used the words fear, afraid, scared, or terrified over 18 times. So we know that what has happened to kids has been challenging. And so when schools reopen, we have to be able to address those basic safety and well-being feelings before kids are really ready to learn. And so I think the toughest part is going to be, when teaching is your profession, putting that aside until everyone's ready to learn again. And we have to be doing that from day one, rebuilding trust and rebuilding relationships and working through anxiety before any learning can really occur.
So budgets and finances are a big talking point for a lot of institutions these days. And Governor Cuomo has said without federal aid, there could be cuts to the education budget in the state. Mm-hmm. How do you think those budget cuts would affect the behavioral and mental health services that are offered to children in schools? Would that lead to the elimination of counseling positions?
So there are positions inside the school, and there are community-based organizations that work with children and families after school or in their homes. And every resource is going to be needed to address the needs, the emerging needs of children. So the budget cuts cut both ways. If school budgets are cut, the additional transportation to achieve social distancing is impacted. The additional teachers that would be needed to keep the classrooms smaller so that there are fewer kids in the classroom at any time. And then if the community-based organizations are cut, all of the supports that we need to seamlessly keep the kids safe in, say, out of school time programs, after school time programs, so they're not home alone if they're on a remote learning day, or the mental health services that go in, pushed into the schools to run a school-based mental health clinic or to train teachers about post-traumatic stress and trauma-informed learning. All of those resources will be impacted. So right now, we are very much focused on making sure that school districts are included in federal economic stimulus aid, because they are going to need more money to teach in a socially distant, appropriate way. And just like community-based organizations are going to need more money to be able to expand this number of kids and serve the number of kids that are going to present as needing services.
And this need for federal aid, it's gone beyond schools. It's even affected the Office of Mental Health, which has put some grant funding on hold. You wrote a letter to Governor Cuomo, and you are asking for that grant money to be freed up. How much money are we talking about?
So we're talking about a lot of money, but let me say that the governor's office did notify us on Friday that the July 1st state aid to mental health providers will be released. And we are so relieved that the state budget office and the governor's office has prioritized that funding. We think that it will be about $70 million that will flow into counties and then from counties down to community-based organizations. organizations, and we do believe we were heard, and that funding will come through. Thank goodness.
Now, will that mean a full complement of services? Will that be enough to make sure all of the services that have been provided in the past will be accounted for going forward?
No, I mean, that really will just allow us to keep the local grant programs running. Most of our funding is through Medicaid, and there's another federal disbursement that we're waiting on. It was recently announced that the federal government was going to make $15 billion available to eligible Medicaid providers. That's the funding that will be needed to keep services whole, because we lost revenue as a result of COVID, and then there were hundreds of thousands of dollars of additional costs to be able to do telehealth services. So we're covering a lot of ground in that answer, but we need that federal money.
Andrea Smith, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.